Today I want to share some advice for new illustrators beginning their careers in 2024. Since writing my book, The Illustrator's Guide, I've been asked to go and speak at various universities, which I'd love to do, but it's not so easy to visit faraway universities in the UK, not to mention the rest of the world. So this video is what I would say if I could come and visit you in person. If you've never seen me before, I'm James, an illustration agent. I work with experienced professional illustrators every day, and I also help new illustrators who are still finding their feet grow through this YouTube channel and the book. I didn't make it as an illustrator, but I've been where you are now. I tried to be an illustrator when I left university, but there was a big gap in the knowledge that I got from studying. We talked a lot about the creative part, that was all good, but then I graduated and I thought, okay, what do I do now in terms of setting up a business and actually finding clients? And that was a bit of a shock to the system, to be honest. I think universities are much better at it now in terms of teaching professional practice and getting people from the industry to teach you about it too. There are plenty of great successful illustrators that go into teaching to generously share what they know with the next generation. And some lecturers may still be working on developing their own illustration career. They're still learning and developing and then sharing that knowledge with you. I tried freelancing for a while, but ultimately changed course because I didn't really want it enough. I'm not mentally tough enough for the freelance life, and I realized my skills weren't in being creative on command, but in helping other more talented people do that. I've learned a lot about the illustration industry in the last 9 years, and while I'm certainly not the most experienced agent out there, I've accumulated a lot of knowledge that can be helpful to other people. This YouTube channel and this book are what I needed when I graduated, because I just wanted somebody to fill in the knowledge gaps and help me get from getting my degree to getting regular work and making money from illustration. So here's my first bit of advice. Don't make the same mistakes I did. When I graduated, I rented a studio. I bought a new laptop, a graphics tablet, a new camera, and all kinds of other gear. I spent a load of money up front, blew through my savings, and once I'd done that, I spent almost a year trying to find that first client. And I did that by posting my work online on various portfolio websites. Social media wasn't as big a deal back then, but there were more online directory style websites where creatives could post their work with the goal of being discovered by clients. And some of those I had to pay for too. It didn't work because, for one thing, I was a beginner, so my work wasn't good enough to get noticed by any clients who were looking, and because I was relying on luck. My strategy, if you can call it that, was passive, posting work in as many different places as I could find and hoping somebody would find it. I had very little confidence and I was terrified of reaching out to people directly because I was scared of annoying them or getting rejected, basically. And as a result, I just kind of floundered around, waiting for my big break. I had no savings anymore, so I had to get another job. In my 2-year attempt at being a freelance illustrator, I barely got any real work. I got a few sort of low-paid jobs for indie magazines, but I can't really describe it as a success. I spent all my money and I put myself into debt, so I had to work at another job even more, and then I wasn't spending as much time on illustration. I went all in, financially speaking, and then some, and then I got myself into a position where I was trapped working at my day job to pay off my debts. If I were to do it all over again, I would get a job straight out of university, ideally something creative where I could practice my skills and learn about the industry. But if I couldn't do that, then I'd get a job that I didn't have to think too much about, so I could save my creative energy to work on my portfolio and my skills on weekends and in the evenings. Going all in, full-time, from the start seems like it's a quicker route to make it. That's what I thought. But it's also extremely high risk because you run out of money really, really quickly when you're not earning anything. By doing that, I probably set myself back years. Having a day job may be a slower approach, but it's sustainable and it's safe. And honestly, if I'd have done it this way around, I probably would have found my way quicker and not put myself into debt. Not everybody who wants to be an illustrator is going to make it, so diving in full-time isn't going to work for most people. I'm not saying it can't be done, but there are about 20 students on my illustration course at university, and I think, including me, there are only 2 still working in the industry, and I'm not even an illustrator. If you take the high-risk approach, there's a high risk of getting into a situation where you either quit out of frustration or out of necessity. You have to go and get a real job to pay rent. So don't jump into full-time freelancing too soon. Work on illustration part-time until you start getting interest from clients. If you can get a few clients doing it part-time, you'll know that going full-time isn't such a big risk. You've got the proof then that people actually like what you're making. And be smart with your money. Don't blow it all on expensive gear or marketing materials. Work with what you've got, and again, if you can find paying clients working with a second-hand computer and by emailing your work to them for free, then you know that upgrading and getting some new tech or spending on getting some mail-outs printed is a worthwhile investment. Your goal at the very start of the career is to survive long enough to get good at what you do and find your first clients. We don't know how long that's going to take, so plan long term and make sure you can keep going in a sustainable way. If you're a young illustrator, you've probably got more time than you do money, so spend your time wisely first before you start spending your money. Commit to it. The next thing I'd like to say is that you've got to commit, even if it is part-time. I didn't. I wasn't consistent. I didn't practice as much as I should have. And while I did go all in financially, I didn't go all in with effort. I was young, I was wasting a lot of time and half-assing multiple things instead of whole-assing one thing. If you know you want to be an illustrator, commit to that decision now. So every day when you wake up, you know that is your North Star, and everything you do needs to support that goal, or at the very least, not steer you off course. If you're working in an office or a warehouse, it's not helping you become an illustrator directly, but it does mean you can support yourself while you work towards the goal. Don't leave it up to your future self to decide whether you work on your illustrations on any particular day, because some days you might not feel like it. But if you decide in advance and make it the default that you definitely will work on your illustrations 5 days a week, you'll have a better chance of getting where you want to go. Maybe the first step on your path to becoming an illustrator is finding that first paying client. That is a big achievement, and it's a really powerful motivator. To get to that stage, you need to have a portfolio that's good enough to get clients interested. I don't think there's a magic number for a portfolio, but if you want to get, say, 20 really good illustrations in your portfolio, you might need to be willing to make 100, 200, 500, maybe more crappy first attempts before you can get 20 illustrations that are going to be good enough to get you hired. How many can you make in a week? Probably not more than 4 or 5. That's a big commitment of time and energy, and a lot of people will quit before they get their first client. Your portfolio doesn't need to be perfect to get you that first client. I don't think it ever can be perfect, because the longer you go, the more skills you learn, the better you get. It's always going to be a work in progress and an evolution. It just needs to be good enough to get you hired. So constantly learning new things, iterating, thinking about whatever illustration you've just made and then reviewing it and thinking, how can I do better next time? What can I do in my next illustration to make it better than the last one? That takes some serious commitment. You take small steps in the right direction, and after a while, you look back and you can see the progress you've made, and that's what keeps you moving forward. In my book, I boiled it down to 2 essential steps. Make loads of work and then show that work to the people who can give you feedback or hire you. And you just got to repeat that process until you get good enough for somebody to hire you. Simple, but not easy. Keep an open mind. I would also encourage you to keep an open mind about what an illustration career could look like for you. You might have a very clear idea of what kinds of projects you want to work on when you become a professional illustrator. Maybe that's children's books, maybe you want to work in animation, but I would encourage you at the start to really just try anything and everything. Take every opportunity you can. Try all different kinds of things, because that's the only way you'll really find out what you enjoy the most. Now, you might enjoy illustrating kids' books right now and developing that kind of style. How do you know if that's really what you want to do with your career unless you've tried out all the other things too? Find out what you're good at. Find out what you enjoy the most. Find out what you don't like early, and then you can double down on what you like the most. You can't know what you're best suited to until you try it. What you like now, you might not like in 5 years, so it also pays to have a bit of experience of other areas of the industry in case you decide to change course later down the line. Plus, now AI is changing the landscape of work in all industries. We don't even know what new possibilities there will be for illustration in the future. What you ultimately make a living doing with your creative skills may not even exist yet. Develop a unique illustration style. If you're coming out of university, your portfolio probably includes a lot of experimentation and different techniques and styles. You've probably discovered some things that you really like and some other things that you're not interested in. That's great. The next stage is to lean into what you like and what you think you'd like to get really good at, and develop your own style using what you've learned. There are some professional artists who have multiple styles in their portfolio. If they've got the skills to be able to do multiple styles, well, that's great. They can have a good career. But I would say most of the time, those artists are never going to be and maybe this is the wrong word, but famous. They're never going to be the artists that clients get in touch with specifically because they want that artist's style. They're really useful people to work with because they can do a little bit of everything, but they're never going to be well known for any one thing. The artists that you might know and look up to and follow on social media, they're the ones that have got really good at doing one thing. They're unique and memorable, and you think, yeah, that's cool. And so do clients. Now, by doing that and developing a unique style, some people aren't going to like your work, but the ones that do like your work are really, really going to like it. Whereas if you do multiple styles at sort of a medium level, it's fine. You can have a career, but it kind of depends what your goal is. And I think from an agency point of view, they want to work with illustrators who have that memorable style. Because if you think about a big brand, let's say Adidas, and they want an illustrated ad campaign, they don't want to hire somebody who's got a generic style. They want somebody that offers a fresh perspective, something unique, something that their customers are going to see and think, whoa, that's cool, and they'll remember it. And they're going to want to know who the artist is, and they're going to get invested, and they're going to like Adidas even more because Adidas chose the right artist for the brand. There's another very good reason to develop a unique style, because if you work in a style that's sort of generic and lots of other people can do it, then you're in a position where you've got more competition. If you're the only one that can do what you can do, then you've got no competition, and your clients will value you very highly because nobody else can do it. If you work like everybody else, then you're going to be competing with more people, and you'll have to be more competitive with your prices too. Your style will continue to evolve over years and years. It's never finished, and it'll take some time to develop a style that resonates with the clients you want to work with. You'll continue experimenting and improving it, and eventually you'll find your style, and you'll know you've nailed it because clients will tell you. They'll say, I love your style. Then you know you're on the right track, and that client wants to work with you specifically, not just any illustrator. What should you show in your portfolio? If you've got all these experimental pieces in your portfolio right now, a client is unlikely to hire you because they don't really know what it is they're going to get. There's no defined style for them to latch onto. But when you choose a style and you start developing it, your portfolio becomes more focused. It will be obvious at first which are the new pieces and which are the older ones, and we can see this development in the progress, which is kind of nice, I think. But you want your clients to be able to look at your portfolio and know that if they hire you, they'll get something in a similar style to what they see there. If you've only got one illustration in a particular style, we have no idea if you can replicate it. So showing multiple examples of illustrations in the same style puts your client's mind at ease. If they like the style, they can hire you knowing that they'll get that style from you. The style is what ties your portfolio together. But in order to attract a wide range of clients, so you can try out different kinds of projects and different parts of the industry, you've got to apply that style to lots of different subjects. So if a food client looks at your portfolio, there's something for them. If a science client looks, there's something for them too. If a sports client looks through your portfolio, they can find examples of things that could be useful to them. You're specializing in your unique style, but casting a wide net in the subjects you illustrate. When we're just starting out, we want to make sure we have as many opportunities as possible, so we can start making money doing what we love. Specializing too soon means you're cutting out big areas of the market. Social media. I want to talk about social media just for a minute because it can be a useful tool for marketing your work, but it can also be a massive distraction from actually doing the work. And some of the illustrators you might follow on TikTok, they might have got really good at social media and getting lots of followers and likes, but that doesn't necessarily mean they've built themselves a solid career and income. Illustration is a skill. Getting good at social media is a different skill. Marketing your work to paying clients is another different skill. If you're good at illustration and good at social media, you still might not be getting that much work. Having a giant social media following guarantees nothing in the real world. And in 5 years, there will no doubt be a lot of new platforms too. And it works the other way around. You might find an illustrator who's terrible at social media, but who's built themselves a really good business. It's hard to tell. But work on all three skills together, and don't let social media take priority over finding paying clients. It's just one part of the puzzle, not your whole marketing strategy. Part of my marketing strategy, in case you're interested, is asking you to subscribe to the channel. The industry is changing. The creative industry is going through a hard time right now. There's less work around and more competition than ever. Every industry goes through cycles, and a lot of illustration is determined by how the industries that our clients are in are doing. Print media is tricky at the moment, editorial is on the decline, and that has traditionally been a good way into the illustration industry for new artists. It's been tough in advertising recently too. It seems to be in a bit of a transition period of figuring out what's next. There's been a lot of economic uncertainty over the last year with talks of recessions, and that's when budgets get cut. Brands are spending less in general, and that trickles down through the agencies to us at the bottom of the food chain. The war in Ukraine is ongoing, and the Israel-Palestine conflict is contributing to the global economic market. AI may be a factor. I'm not talking about the micro level of clients choosing an AI over a real Illustrator, but AI at the higher levels revolutionizing industries and the job market. A lot of roles in big companies will become unnecessary over the next few years, and that will change the dynamic of how brands, agencies, and everything works. There will always be a place for real human creative professionals, but think outside our immediate concerns with illustration, like with Midjourney or DALL-E, for example. The whole world will be affected. So many of our clients will be investing heavily in AI, and others will be waiting to see how the dust settles and trying to play it safe with how much money they're spending. So this is all the more reason for you to play it safe and think long term. It may take a little longer to find your place in the industry than usual, and you may find that you'll ultimately be working on projects that previously didn't exist and in ways that previously didn't exist. So again, keep an open mind. How to find clients. So how do you find clients in a market that's going through crazy changes like this, where there's less work around in general? I wish I had an easy answer for you. Previously, I've said that email is the best, cheapest, and quickest way to find work, and it is. But at the moment, art directors and illustration agencies are being absolutely bombarded with emails from creatives of all kinds looking for work. Lots of illustrators have seen a slowdown in their work over the past year, and they're getting to a point where they are panicking and doubling down on outreach to clients. That means they'll likely be open to accepting lower fees than they may have done previously, so clients can get more experienced creatives for their projects for cheaper. All this adds up to new illustrators having a very difficult time getting their first projects. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try, but it does mean you'll need to be patient until the industry normalizes again, which it will. That might mean you have to have another job to pay your bills, but it's also an opportunity for you to continue working on your craft and getting really good at what you do, so you're well prepared for when business is booming again. If you go dormant in practicing and learning and you lose motivation now, when the industry bounces back, you'll be exactly where you are now, with the portfolio and the skills of a beginner. If you use this time wisely and improve your skills as much as possible, you'll hopefully be able to get your career started working on bigger and better things and skip ahead a few steps. I've got videos about finding clients and how to email clients on the channel here, so check them out, follow the steps and get into the habit of reaching out to people who could hire you or who could give you feedback. And maybe feedback is all some of them can offer right now, but that's still useful. Dealing with rejection. Being rejected is often the front of mind when you're just beginning to share your creative work. It certainly was for me. But I find that being ignored is far more common. As I've just mentioned, our clients are probably overwhelmed with the amount of emails they're getting from illustrators at the moment, so they're not going to have time to get back to everybody. But it's nothing personal. It's because they're busy, and maybe because they're not commissioning as much illustration right now. And the chances of you emailing a client at the exact time they are looking for an illustrator like you for a project is tiny. So you've got to zoom out and think about it more long term. Don't think of any one email to a client as being the important one. It's more like you're building up familiarity as you go along. The first email you send to a client is probably not going to get a reply, but if you then email them in another 6 months with new work, better work, work that's more suitable for their brand, they'll see that and they'll think, oh, this artist has improved since I last saw their portfolio. And then maybe you email them again a little while after, and the work's got even better, you've got more experience, your skills have improved, your chances improve with every contact. A rejection or being ignored by a client that first time is unfortunately pretty normal. It's a sign that you've got a little bit more work to do, or that you've got to keep in touch so when they do have a project, they'll think of you. Be persistent and don't get your hopes up too much. It's a long-term plan. You're not annoying anybody by sending them work that they could potentially make use of. You're being generous in that sense. You look at the client, you think, can my work be useful to them? If so, send them some of your work and then keep doing that until they express interest or they ask you to stop, which could happen. Competition. I mentioned earlier that there's more competition than ever, and there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of illustration courses around the world with people like you hoping to find their first clients. So you've really got to think about how you can stand out. Part of that is the unique style you develop. Another part is how useful your work is to a particular kind of client. So when you're making new personal work for your portfolio, add in a research phase before you make anything. If you only make something that you like and that you're interested in, you're missing the point. Illustration has to be useful to a client or they won't want it. Let's say you want to work for a specific brand. If you look at how they use illustration in their marketing or on their website or on their packaging, you can learn a lot about what their goals are. Who are they trying to attract? What are they trying to communicate? Where are they selling their products? What kinds of people are buying them? And what do they like? Ask these questions and write yourself a brief for a project. Then your illustration will answer the questions and solve the problems. And when you can show that to a client, they'll be able to see that you've really thought about it, thought about them, thought about their goals. That stands out. When you do start emailing your work to clients, the names that come to mind are probably going to be the most well-known and famous clients. For example, the New York Times, Nike, the Washington Post, Apple, Google, all the big publishing houses and brands. Everybody else is thinking about those names too and sending their work to them. The competition is unbelievable. So you've got to look around for the lesser known clients because you'll have less competition and you'll have a better shot of getting hired. There's plenty of clients around the world looking for creative work, most of them you never heard of. So get into the research. Look on Wikipedia for the top magazines by circulation and you'll get a big long list of names. Google names of cities along with design agency and you'll have an endless list of creative agencies that could, in theory, require illustration at some point in the future. You've still got to do some research to see what kinds of projects they work on. A lot of them won't ever hire illustrators, so don't waste your time with them. But if you see any indication of them using illustration and your kind of illustration, send them some work. Who knows where it'll lead? Build up your network and community. Find yourself a group of motivated, like-minded people that you can talk about your illustration work with. Share ideas and work on things together. Write briefs for each other and give each other feedback. Help each other get better and stay motivated. I'm a member of 5 different online communities right now. One for writing, one for YouTube, another for productivity, another for more business stuff. I also run a small community for illustrators. You can find out more about that in the description if you're interested. If you can find a community or illustration meetup in real life, all the better. Even if you don't join a group, you can send a friendly email to an artist you like and strike up a conversation. You can build a network one person at a time and maybe get some useful tips and give some useful tips and make some new friends. Learning. And my final bit of advice is to keep learning. University, if that's where you are now, is only the beginning. Learn new skills, techniques, software, whatever it is, make it part of your day-to-day life because that's how you'll become the best illustrator you can be. Practicing what you can already do is good, but expanding that circle of what you can do is how you become great. Learning how to learn new things quickly will serve you well all the way through your career, so start practicing early. If you liked this video, maybe someone else you know would like it too. Please share it with them, and I'll see you next time.